Hello, Mr. Salavati. My name is Raj Boparai. The novel that we were instructed to read was Timothy Finley's The Wars. The Wars is an award winning novel written by one of Canada's most decorated and well respected authors, Timothy Finley. The Wars evokes the sheer carnage and waste of the Great War, with its ritual sacrifice of youth, beauty, and goodness. The novel also juxtaposes military and domestic wars in its examination of gender conflict and sexual battles that rage within the Ross and Dorsey households. The novel is about Robert Ross, a young teenage boy whose mistakes and sheer ignorance cause him to join the army. Ross has a number of siblings, but one special one, Rowena. Rowena is Robert's older sister, who's a hydrocephalic. In other words, she was born with water in her brain, causing lots of complications with regards to her development. Robert was asked to take care of his sister one day, but was caught masturbating in his room while his sister fell out of her chair to her death. This tragic incident inspires Robert to join the army, and thus his journey as a Marine begins. In this journey, Ross learns the ups and downs of the military world and how to cope with the emotional distress associated with the Great War. So, to begin my analysis, I will discuss the literary techniques used throughout the novel. There are a number of literary techniques that Finley incorporates into his novel. An excellent example of this is a foreshadowing towards the beginning of the novel on page number 98. So here's a quote from the book. There are enmities in families that have to be forborne. But oh, when it turns to hate, I gather he refuses to speak to you. That's right. I don't understand. It's as if Robert did something evil. Well, some say he did. Some maniacs. Oh yes, I've heard that too. So, that was the quote. This foreshadows that the war made Robert mentally insane. The story does an excellent job of setting the mood and tone. The mood is very happy at the beginning of the novel, but quickly changes into a dismal mood that emphasizes the troubles that Robert goes through. The voice of the story remains neutral as the story is told from a third person point of view. The narrator does an excellent job of using images and symbols that are highly effective. For example, I mentioned earlier, animals represent peace and tranquility in a world otherwise dominated by violence. Moving on, we will observe the themes and main ideas that the novel has to offer. There are a number of important themes throughout the novel. For instance, loss or destruction of innocence, as many innocent characters are consumed by the war. This starts with Rowena's death and is continued throughout the novel through Robert's interaction with animals, which is a major theme in the story. On numerous occasions, Robert is asked to kill animals, and on every occasion, he does his best to avoid the situations. In the novel, animals symbolize peace and tranquility. We see this when the author writes, Robert saw a small white farm with a cow on the yard, and he thought, there cannot be a war here. So this is a quote from page number 191. Another altercation that revolves around animals is a part of the novel where Robert shoots Captain Leather in the head. Captain Leather is trying to kill all the barn animals and Ross advises him to stop. When Leather doesn't listen, Robert goes out of his way to free the animals, and the captain shouts, "Traitor!" The captain shoots an office that bursts into flames and kills all the animals in the barn. This makes Robert so mad that he takes out his pistol and shoots Captain Leather right in the head, after saying, if an animal had done this, we would call it mad and shoot it. This segues us into the next theme, which is violence as order and chaos. We usually associate violence with chaos, but violence as order seems like an awkward combination. However, this is how the commanders and captains in the war choose to run their battalions. This causes a lot of controversy within Roz as he struggles with trying to find a balance between his own ethical values and the orders that his seniors give him. Timothy Finley does an excellent job of developing his characters, as Robert Ross proves to be a dynamic character that undergoes many changes throughout the novel. He begins as an ordinary Marine that follows orders, but changes into a brute that is willing to kill and fight for what he believes in. We can also relate this film back to Sigmund Freud's psychoanalytical theory. For instance, at the beginning of the novel, Robert Ross's id speaks out, as he is willing to do anything to avoid going to war. Also, he wanted sexual pleasure so badly that he went to masturbate instead of looking after his sister, ultimately causing her death. However, after the death of Rowena, Ross's ego and superego dominate the id as he joins the war willingly and feels the true remorse of his sister's death. One particularly interesting aspect of the book is the gender conflicts and sexual battles that occur in the Ross and Dorsey household. This is extremely interesting since anyone familiar with the works of Timothy Finley, or just Timothy Finley himself, know that he was openly homosexual. Finley manages to take key things that influence his life and apply them in his works. This is one of the things that make him such a revolutionary author. This novel is a classic depiction of Timothy Finley's works. This novel took him from being an average Canadian author to a well-recognized and decorated one. Finley manages to teach the audience a number of lessons through a variety of conflicts. These conflicts range from person versus person to person versus nature. However, the novel remains a piece of literary genius as it incorporates a number of literary devices and crucial writing concepts. I personally would highly recommend this novel to people of all ages as it has much to offer in terms of ethical and moral lessons, yet remains an enjoyable and quick read. Thank you for listening to my Unit 4